The Paul Leslie Interviews.
Also joining us today is Frank McInvale, the president of Jim Asbell's fan club. I do thank him for coming along. Welcome.
Thank you for having me, Paul.
So tell us about what made you have the idea to start a Jim Asbell fan club.
Well, when we discovered Jim and started listening to him play and absolutely fell in love with his style and his voice, there was a group of us that all got together and decided that we would try to help him promote his career as much as possible. And we know that one of the ways that these independent musicians get ahead and get a following built up is by having a fan club and having a fan base to come out and listen to him perform and show him support. We'd seen that with a bunch of other artists that we follow. So some friends and I decided to get together and try to put it together, and this is what came out of it.
So how did you find Jim?
Some friends of ours had seen him playing at the Flying Machine up at the Lawrenceville Airport, and they happened to just hear from someone that there was a guy there playing Buffett. So they went in on a Thursday night, I think it was, and listened to him and came back just ranting and raving about how many songs this guy knew that nobody ever plays, Buffett stuff that you never hear live, and how great his voice was and how nice of a guy he was. So we went back with him the next week and took a half a dozen of us in and just absolutely fell in love with him. It was great. What a great show he put on that night. So we started going back. At that point, Jim was saying that he didn't know if he was going to continue playing music. He was at a point where he wasn't getting a lot of gigs and he wasn't having many people follow him. And like he said before, he doesn't like being background noise. He wants people to pay attention when he plays. So when we started paying attention, he noticed, and that led it into us being able to talk him into keeping playing, continuing to play. And it has progressed from there. That was about 3 years ago.
So I take it you're a tropical music fan?
Absolutely. I love all these guys, all the tropical music that's around. I've started off listening with like Sonny Jim White, Jim Morris, Hugo Duarte, just all these guys that are just so awesome in their own right.
What do you think it is about that kind of music that attracts you?
Well, I've always been a Buffett fan, always been a Parrot head. I love the island lifestyle, the island way of doing things, the laid-back style. I love the beach, love the islands. And a lot of the songs that come out of these guys portray that. They foster that mental image of being on the beach. And that's what I enjoy. That's what I listen to anywhere I go.
So do you have a good Jim Asbell story for us?
In the song, One More Song, when he talked about someone setting the clock back an hour, I think, well, that was me. I actually stole his watch on a break off of his mic stand and turned it back an hour, put it back on his mic stand, and he came back and played, and he played a couple of songs, and then he kind of, I could see him looking at his watch, and then he'd play another song, and he looked at his watch, and he's shaking his head going, God, I thought it was later than this, I can't believe this, and it took him about 4 or 5 songs to catch on that somebody messed with my watch. Well, that was me.
Was there anything about Jim Asbell that you think makes him one of your favorites? Because obviously you love the guy. I mean,
Yes, I do. He's a very good friend, for one thing. But also, what started off was the sheer volume of Buffett music that he knew how to play, that, like I said, nobody else plays live. That was one of the beginning things that got us interested in following him around. And from there, it's just his personality comes through. He's a very genuine and honest person. Besides that, I believe his voice is an incredible talent, and his guitar skills are excellent as well, but his voice is what really brings it through. And when we go out and listen to him play, people that have never heard him before, this happened last night at the show where Fingers was there, there was a couple sitting behind me that had never been in Cheeseburger before, had never heard of Jim or Katie Moore. They, of course, had listened to Jimmy Buffett but didn't know Fingers by name. They were probably, around 30 years old or so. And the one guy, he knew, I obviously knew who was on stage and everything, and he reached over and tapped me on the shoulder and said, okay, so who are these guys? And so I explained to him who Fingers was, and then who KD was, and Jim. And as it progressed through the night, he reached up and tapped me on the shoulder, and he said, these guys are awesome, but the guy on the right with the green shirt, God, he sounds just like Buffett. He just really sounds like Jimmy. And that's it came through very clearly, even to people that had never heard him before. And it really is, I believe it, an amazing talent.
Well, thank you very much for coming down. It's a pleasure to have you.
Well, thank you for having me.